Is there a place in time where logic breaks down and wonderment begins? Could that be somewhere at some time along an infinite line between the reasonable and the highly unlikely? Join us on a journey into the improbable.
Makeshift Stories presents Episode 308, Personal Detritus. Read by Vern Hume. Opening and closing theme by Matthew Erdman. Somewhere and sometime, good fortune might only be a thin veneer over an ugly surprise. Liam felt the bass resonate in his chest. Boots and cats and boots and cats and boots and cats. It spilled into the street as he walked through the Vibe's entrance into the unusual heat of a late November evening. The bass dulled to a residual thump, thump, thump when the heavy door of the club closed. To the left, down Wellet Avenue toward the Detroit River, the lights of the old municipal district danced across the fast-moving water. Liam turned right, intending to head for an exclusive party the bartender had told him about. He took his designer dinner jacket off so it wouldn't get stained with sweat, walked around the corner, checked to ensure no one was around, and hailed an autocab. Rupert Hudson, venture capitalist extraordinaire and Liam's alter ego, would never take a cab. Rupert moved around town in air-conditioned, chauffeur-driven limousines. However, Liam had almost maxed out his current forged credit card and couldn't afford one tonight. When no one was looking, he got into the back seat of a beat-up cab, darkened the windows, and slipped away into the night. Liam felt underdressed. The party was more exclusive than the bartender let on. "Rupert!" A 30-something man with jean-modded good looks, wearing a brand-new smart cloth suit, yelled across the crowded rooftop. The suit displayed images from a high-end fashion designer, whose name Liam couldn't recall. He pushed his way through the crowd. "Nice suit, Mark." "I bought the exclusive rights to Phoenix Moon's latest work. Cost a fortune, but it's worth it to stand out from the crowd." Mark grinned. Liam watched as silver snake-like creatures wrapped around the man's torso. Even up close, the illusion was perfect. Mark never went halfway on anything. He was old money with connections. Liam liked Mark, but kept his distance. He couldn't afford to get too close lest his paper-thin Rupert Hudson veneer melt under the scrutiny of familiarity. "Nice threads. It's great to see you again, Mark." "Hey, I've got a young friend with a new startup. It's a sure thing for an angel investor like you. I'd throw in money myself, but you know how it is. I'm asset rich." "And cash poor," Liam completed for him. "Why don't you trade some of your blue-chip stocks for a stake?" "Yeah, sure," Mark laughed. "I don't take risks with my fortune. That's what you VCs do. Besides, she needs cash." Liam knew the routine. It would be some young, aspiring, naive kid that Mark wanted to impress without endangering his wealth. "She's right over here." He stayed just long enough to make a few vague statements of interest, fulfilling Mark's promise to connect the woman with a VC, then noted the time and excused himself before he had to commit money he didn't have. "Thanks for talking to her," Mark winked. "I'm hosting a private event next week at the Toxic Cataclysm. I'll make sure you get an invite." "Thanks." Liam knew Mark didn't care if Rupert never followed up. When he was sure no one was watching, he left, then walked a few blocks before ducking into a 24-hour self-storage, where he opened a rented locker and exchanged his designer clothes for dollar-store jeans and a worn-out t-shirt. "Good night, Rupert," he said to his alter ego's designer wardrobe as he straightened one of the priceless jackets, closed the locker, and then walked the rest of the way to the Shambles, where he shared a rusting RV propped up on blocks with 3 roomies. Liam was 30 minutes late for his shift. His roomies had neglected to wake him up for the first shuttle to the sorting plant, again. He fumbled in his pocket for his hacked ID card, shoving it into the time clock. A green light blinked, and Liam checked his login time. 7 a.m. "I'm on time," he smiled. The punch clock software was written by the company that had replaced him with an AI. The code the machine wrote was easy for Liam to circumvent. After all, It was only as good as the prompt that generated it, and his old supervisor knew nothing about programming. "Thanks, Williams," Liam mouthed as the clock took his picture and time stamped it. The security door clicked open, and Liam sauntered through. "Liam, where have you been?" Liam spun around. "Biobreak," he lied. "Really?" Evelyn, the shift supervisor, challenged. "You just got here." "Check the clock." "I already did." "Check again." Evelyn opened the timesheets on her handheld and raised an eyebrow. "Too bad. I docked your pay and reassigned you to shredding and washing. Now get going. The shredder is jammed, and the recycle is backing up." The smell of stale booze and rotting food assaulted Liam before he opened the door. On the other side, he gagged. A few conscripts he had never seen before had gathered near the conveyor to watch the unwashed recycle pile up and spill onto the floor. Liam rushed to the control box mounted on the wall and hit the red button. The conveyor jerked to a halt. "Hey, why didn't anyone stop it?" he yelled. No one reacted. The group seemed confused. "Great, new conscripts." Liam cursed, knowing this was precisely why Evelyn had assigned him to shredding and washing. The Economic Zone Administration conducted regular sweeps to clear people living on the streets from the areas around the wealthy enclaves. Living rough had been outlawed in those municipal zones. The arrested were conscripted to work in places like the recycle plant and moved to the shambles, their minimal pay taxed back as rent, so paying off the fine was a long-term project. After being laid off 5 years ago, Liam had been caught in a sweep, but he had discovered a silver lining. "What's your name?" Liam asked an older woman who was standing closest to him. "Sienna." "Fresh off the street and it's your first shift?" Sienna nodded. "Okay then, listen," he directed, in his best attempt at sounding in control. "There are plastic barrels against the wall. Toss the overflow in them and come get me when you're done." Liam left to examine the shredder at the other end of the sorting room. The machine was jammed, a mangled golf club wrapped around the saw blades. "Someone from the enclaves," he cursed. The wealthy never sorted their garbage. Liam made sure the machine was shut down, then grabbed the cutter left there for situations like this. He climbed onto the conveyor, then spotted a black plastic shopping bag sporting the logo of an exclusive smart clothes designer. Checking to ensure no one was watching, he tucked the bag away under the shredder before cutting out the offending club. "All clear!" he yelled, jumped to the floor and reset the cutter. The conveyor jerked to life, pushing recycled plastic into the mechanical jaws. Liam was about to retrieve the bag when Sienna, the older conscript, blocked his way. "We're finished picking up." Sienna looked at the floor instead of Liam. "Sir?" For an instant, he was Hudson, basking in the nervous woman's deference. "What are you standing around for? This isn't a waiting lounge," Evelyn yelled over the roar of the shredder, destroying his illusion of power. The supervisor had appeared from nowhere and was standing by the entrance, glaring at Liam and Sienna. "The wash plant is almost out of recycle. Get everything back on the conveyor. That includes you, Liam. Move it." Rupert would have refused. Liam cursed under his breath, and Sienna's deference melted away. Now she knew he was no different than her. On break, Liam snuck back to the shredder to retrieve the bag he had stuffed under it. Inside, he found bank statements, credit card records, and even an old fingerprint scanner. Jackpot. It had everything he needed to forge a new account. Sometimes it took days to piece together enough info to get a card number. Today, he had been lucky. The extent of his luck became evident when Liam stopped on his way home at a community access point. He logged on with a username he had scavenged at the plant and applied for a new card using the biometric data from the reader in the bag. "Wow!" Liam blurted so loudly that the people in nearby cubicles looked up. Elijah Vale, the ID he had harvested, had a credit limit 100 times larger than anyone he had stolen from before. Liam ran a quick search for the man's name and came up with nothing. Whoever Vale was, he had the resources to keep himself off the net. But not the smarts to personally shred critical garbage, Liam muttered. What did that say about the man? This month, Liam's alter ego's extravagant lifestyle would be financed by the arrogance of a wealthy resident of the enclaves, who had been too lazy to monitor what he threw away. Serves him right, Liam gloated. The doorman checked Rupert out, then nodded him through. The toxic cataclysm, built in a century-old chemical plant, was the hottest club in the Detroit-Windsor Municipal District and Mark's latest venture. Strictly invite-only, strictly 1% clientele. His new smart cloth shirt got him past the minimum dress code, just. Licensed designer content would have pushed him well over the top. However, Liam didn't want to be too visible. Using Vale's forged credit card, he had splashed a lot of money around town on a new wardrobe, but hadn't been stupid about it. Being noticed was a recipe for getting caught. "Hey, Rupert, so you're finally seeing the light and getting into smart clothes." Mark caught Liam by the elbow and spun him around. "Not the best resolution," and Mark made a sour face. "Stock programs? Rupert? Who helps you buy? I bet you paid full price." Liam shrugged. "I like the built-in programs. I'm not out to impress anyone." "Sure," Mark laughed. "Glad you're here anyway." A tall man with striking blonde hair stepped between them. "Mark, great to see you. Let's find a place to talk later." "I'll go," Liam volunteered. "Eli, this is Rupert." The stranger assessed Liam, a slight rise in one corner of his upper lip. "That smart cloth is a generation out of date. Crappy resolution. Off the shelf, too. I wouldn't be caught dead wearing it." He turned back to Mark. "I don't know why you keep introducing me to losers." "He's a VC, Eli," Mark explained. "Thought maybe. A VC? Really? Then why have I never seen him before? What have you invested in, mister?" "Hudson, Rupert Hudson." Liam introduced himself, taking an instant dislike to the man. "Agrotech, in the Great Plains Free Economic Zone. Startups you've probably never heard of. Not sexy, but great returns these days. You know, with the shifting growing zones, water shortages, and all that. I have a few friends out there. None of them ever mentioned you. A small wannabe, then. Like I said, Mark, don't waste my time. I'll talk to you later." Liam shivered as the man bulldozed his way across the crowded dance floor. "Who was that?" Liam asked. "He's an important 1%er from south of the river, a mover and shaker in tech. Rumor has it that he made his stash in AGI. I was surprised he showed up, which means my little soirees are getting a good rep." Mark slapped Liam's back. "You'll have to up your game wardrobe-wise, Rupert. Next time you're shopping, go here." Mark handed him a card. "Just say Mark sent you and they'll buzz you in. Nothing off the rack." He winked. "All exclusive, all tailored. Hope your credit's up to it." Mark laughed and walked away. "Vale?" Liam nervously fingered the credit card in his pocket and decided it was time to go. The rented limo dropped him off outside the Vibe. Liam hadn't wanted to take it, but the doorman automatically called it for him. Refusing would have drawn undesirable attention, but he hadn't wanted to use the new credit card so much in the first few days. As the big ICE lumbered away, Liam's handheld buzzed. He pulled it out. A notification flashed, forcing him to thumb to the app. An untitled message was at the top, but the thing disappeared when he tried to open it. Then, one by one, his entire queue emptied. He closed and opened the app. The untitled message was back. All it contained was the word test and a wink emoji. Liam could barely resist running to the 24-hour self-storage to dump the Rupert persona along with its credit cards and expensive clothes. When he was finished, he walked as fast as he could to the anonymity of the shambles. However, the cheap burner handheld he used for his night outs buzzed in his pocket. He pulled it out. There was an untitled message waiting. Liam tossed it into a nearby garbage pile. Late again, Evelyn, Liam's shift supervisor accused. My clock and time says otherwise, Liam grinned. I'm going to find out how you're doing that. You're in shredding and washing again. Now get going. Which was exactly what Liam wanted. It was the best place in the plant to grab discarded personal data. Last night had spooked him. He needed a new card. Thanks for finally gracing us with your presence. Sienna had become the de facto spokesperson of the new conscripts. The shredder needs cleaning again. Liam didn't care if Sienna bossed him around. Cleaning the shredder was always a great opportunity. She and the other conscripts hadn't figured that out, and he wasn't about to tell them. Sure thing, he said, and set to work, pocketing choice bits of ID-bearing detritus when he thought no one was working. Step away from the conveyor, Evelyn shouted. Liam jumped. He had been raking garbage so that it would fit through the shredder's throat. Evelyn was standing at the far end of the plant. 3 men in black suits poured in after her. Stop the conveyor and line up along the side wall, she demanded. That includes you, Liam. Liam shuffled over to where the shift was loosely gathering. Corporate got a tip that someone in this plant is piecing together IDs from recycle. These guys from security are going to pat you down. Make sure you ain't lifting stuff. Liam's stomach lurched, and he broke into a cold sweat. The bits of credit card he had fished out were lead in his pocket. There was no place to dump them. Start at the far end, Evelyn directed. The first inductee stepped back, folding her arms defiantly. It's in your contracts, people. The company is entitled to do spot checks. This is a spot check. Refuse, well, you can't. You're conscripts until you buy your way out. The first conscript dropped her arms and let security pat her down. They moved on to the next person, then the next. It wouldn't take long to reach him. Should he run? What other choice did he have? Liam eyed the distance to the door. He could make it, but would there be more security outside? He would have to take them by surprise and hope for the best. When they started the next pat down, that would be the moment. As security approached the conscript beside him, the man suddenly bolted. As Liam feared, 2 guards stepped into the exit, blocking the man's way. They manhandled him to the floor, handcuffed him, and dragged him away. Liam wouldn't have fared any better. Okay, show's over, back to work, Evelyn yelled. Liam caught her eye, and she gestured him over to a corner. I knew it was one of the new conscripts, Liam. He was selling salvaged IDs. Keep an eye out for me, there might be others. Sure, Liam agreed, his heart finally starting to slow down. As he turned to go back to work, his handheld buzzed. Liam waited until Evelyn couldn't see him, then he pulled it out. A smirking face emoji flashed across the screen and disappeared. He checked around him. Evelyn was berating one of the other workers. No one had their hand held out. After his shift, Liam took transit south of the river to a community access point as far away from the shambles as he could get. He signed in under a false ID and found a workstation in the back corner where no one could watch him. The pieces of the recovered credit card were easy to assemble. A few tricks, and he had enough data to set up a new forged card. Next, he tried to open and delete the Elijah Vale account. Wrong password? He tried again with the same result. What was going on? Had the account been reset? Liam's stomach lurched. Had he been caught? Keep calm, don't lose control, he advised himself. Hands trembling, he retyped the password slowly, checking each character before hitting enter. Time slowed. Nothing happened. The screen suddenly refreshed, and Liam was in. Okay, he was just being paranoid. The thought had barely formed when he noticed the credit card attached to the account had been canceled, and an ominous note added. I would never buy an off-the-rack shirt. You don't understand who you are impersonating. Liam's nervous fingers played across the keyboard as he tried to delete the account. It would take another actor just a few seconds to track the login. Delete! Delete! He pleaded. A new message appeared. Public Terminal 23 at the Old Detroit Southwest Community Access Point. Username. Liam grabbed the power cable and yanked it out of the wall. The screen went blank. Breathing heavily, he tried to compose himself. When he was sure there was no one around, Liam sauntered to the exit and then disappeared into the night, checking over his shoulder. Instead of heading back to the shambles, Liam walked to an intercity transit hub, bought a one-time use workpad and a bus ticket out of town. He randomly chose the destination, some place he had never heard of. By the time Evelyn figured out he had run and reported him, he'd be halfway to? Well, he didn't care. The bus was mostly empty. Liam chose a seat near the back, then waited until the lights of the Great Lakes Economic Zone had thinned to the occasional island in the dark. He ripped the cellophane off the single-use workpad and flicked it on. Not logging into any of his accounts, he navigated to a darknet data market Liam occasionally used, then ran a query on Elijah Vale. The cursor blinked, and Liam was about to give up when an AI-generated summary appeared, blurred out. The amount to access the data would max out his new forged account, but he had to know. He typed in the account number and the authorization. The text unblurred. Eli Vale, also known as Elijah Vale, a 1%er and socialite living in the GLE zone, rumored to be an alias of ENIAC 1. Liam fumbled the workpad. It was the man he had met at Mark's party. It was the person whose ID he had stolen. ENIAC 1 was Eli Vale. How much had he charged to that forged card? The credit limit had been huge, and he hadn't been conservative or discreet. Worse, the darknet market was owned by ENIAC 1. Suddenly, the burner had become the head of a venomous snake reaching out from the darknet. His first impulse was to break the window and throw the thing away. Instead, he dropped it on the floor and crushed it with his boot. Would that even do any good? If the myths about the infamous criminal hacker ENIAC 1 were true, Liam cringed. He looked outside, half expecting a drone to be following him, but only his reflection stared back. The growl of the diesel changed pitch, beginning to whine. Liam was thrown forward as the bus lurched. How long had he been asleep? Outside, it was still pitch black. "We will be making an unplanned stop for maintenance at the next pullout," a voice crackled over the loudspeaker. The bus lurched again and began to slow as an island of light grew out of the dark. 2 wheels hit gravel, and the autopilot swung the lumbering machine off the road to a jerky stop under the sickly yellow glare of a lone, ancient sodium vapor street lamp. "You may stay on the bus or take advantage of the automat located at the far end of the parking lot. A replacement bus is en route. We apologize for the inconvenience." Liam couldn't sit still. He stretched, then stepped on the crushed workpad for good measure, grinding it into the floor, and headed for the door. Outside, the cold air bit into his skin. Liam could see his breath and began to shiver. Where were they? It shouldn't be that cold. The automat at the other end of the gravel parking lot was empty, but looked warm and more comfortable than the bus. None of the other 5 passengers had gotten off. Thinking nothing of it, Liam pushed his hands into his pockets and headed for the automat. However, the door wouldn't open. He swiped his new forged credit card over a reader, then slipped inside. The lights automatically brightened, and rows of vending machines came to life, displaying ads on their front panels. Liam ignored them, settling into a chair near the plate glass windows at the front. The ads on the drink machine closest to him flickered, its screen blanking. Liam turned to look. Out of the corner of his eye, he caught the bus's running lights begin to move. "What the—" He jumped up and ran for the door. By the time Liam's feet hit the gravel, the bus was picking up speed. "Hey! Hey!" he yelled frantically, waving his arms. Through the windows, he could just make out the other passengers staring at him. One was pounding the emergency stop, but the machine kept going, turning onto the highway, its tail lights disappearing into the dark around a turn. Liam doubled over, hands on knees, trying to catch his breath. The cold quickly wrapped around him, forcing a retreat to the automat. "Mr. Hudson, or should I call you Liam?" The question came from the drink machine as soon as the door had closed. "No." Liam turned to escape. "At -5 without a jacket, a human will die of exposure in 5 hours. The next roadside stop is an 8-hour walk, and I have already taken over it. Please sit. Let's talk." "ENIAC 1?" Liam confirmed. "Yes." Liam's heart tried to leap out of his chest. "How about I call you Hudson, and you call me Vale? Evens the field." The drink machine laughed. "Fake wealthy socialite to fake wealthy socialite. Except by day, I'm not a conscript in a recycling plant. Nice side hustle, harvesting IDs from the garbage. I approve. However, that forged card in my alter ego's name drew unwanted attention, caused me a lot of trouble, a real pain, and the last thing a person like me wants is official attention. So you owe me, Liam. Owe me more than money." "Like what?" Liam began edging toward the door. The screen on the drink machine crackled to life. Vale's face appeared sporting a venomous sneer. "Like you are going to work for me as an identity harvester at the recycle, and at night, a crypto mule. You can keep your bunk in the shambles. There are worse fates." "How long? Until I pay you back?" Let's see. You connected Eli Vale to ENIAC 1. No one who knows that leaves my organization. Ever." Vale's virtual eyes followed Liam inch along the plate glass to the door. Every nerve, every neuron insisted Liam should run. "Without a coat, you won't survive long this far north. Did you know the bus has been heading north since you got on 7 hours ago?" Vale snickered. "I had it take a detour, and that highway out there is officially closed for the season. You're well beyond the urban heat dome, and it's almost winter. Leave if you want, but I won't let you back in. That would be the easiest way to solve my Liam problem, but I respect talent and innovation. Your only mistake was picking my garbage. Of course, you can walk away," Vale grinned. "The choice is yours. But Burr, it does look awfully cold out there." Desperate, Liam cupped his hand around his eyes and pressed them to the plate glass window. "This is literally the middle of nowhere. I made sure of that, Liam." There was something just beyond the glare of the lone streetlight. Was it an overflowing dumpster? There were garbage bags around it. Liam recognized how the bags bulged, as if they contained something soft. Clothes, maybe? He bolted for the door. It locked behind him, and the automat's lights shut off. Despite the biting cold, Liam didn't head for the dumpster. Instead, he walked to the highway, then turned in the direction the bus had taken. Just beyond where he thought the automat's security cameras could see, he dropped into the ditch and curled up in a ball to keep warm. The cold immediately attacked. He began shivering and counting, willing himself to stay as long as he could stand it. Liam gave up before he had counted to 500. Was that long enough to convince ENIAC 1? He crawled in the ditch toward the automat to avoid triggering the security cameras. His hands burned, and he was on the verge of losing his feeling when a subtle shadow told him he was behind the dumpster. Liam crawled out and pulled the closest garbage bag back into the ditch. He ripped it open. It was full of soiled coats. Liam knew it was there by the smell. Wood smoke. The abandoned mining work camp was hidden 1 kilometer off the highway, about a day's walk from the roadside automat. It wasn't on any map, was entirely off the grid, and had no connections to the outside world. It was a place that had accumulated people like him. People who had been forced off the net. People who were hiding. Its inhabitants had found him dying of hypothermia on the old road inn. "Hey, Angler!" Like everyone there, he had changed his name. The woman who went by the handle saber yelled across the yard. "Find any machine screws?" Liam wiped grease from his hands and laid down his tools. He had been stripping an ancient snowmobile in a scrap heap of abandoned equipment. The inhabitants called the graveyard. "Yeah, here." He tossed an old Ziploc bag to the woman. There was something ironic about escaping the connected world, only to find himself 8 months later knee-deep in garbage again, harvesting machine parts instead of IDs. He wiped sweat from his brow and leaned against an ancient tractor tire, repurposed as a garden container. "You'll be here for years at that pace," Saber complained. "You owe us for your rescue." "That was the deal, Angler. If you don't slack off in 10 months, you can do what you want." She laughed. "But you're going to try to connect again, aren't you? I can see it in your eyes every time you pass the old cell tower." She was right. Liam had found the isolation hard, and with the added costs for anything he used, his debts continued to pile up. The so-called deal wasn't much different than his conscription at the recycle. Easy to get into, hard to buy your way out. "These are too small," Saber complained, examining the bag. "Try the old tractor at the back of the graveyard." "Okay, boss." Liam picked up the homemade tool belt and climbed over piles of scrap to the tractor. It had been an oversized, manually driven monster, probably replaced by a self-driver before the mine closed over half a century ago. Surprisingly, the cab's windows were still intact. "Try the rails holding the seat to the floor. In the cab," she added. Liam climbed up, opened the door and got in. The cab turned out to be in mint condition. Out of curiosity, he opened a small compartment under the cup holder. An obsolete cell phone and charger dropped into his lap. He quickly hid them in his overalls, checking to ensure Saber hadn't noticed. "Someone's already taken the machine screws out of the rails," he yelled. Liam waited until work was over, then headed to the shed containing the camp's solar storage batteries. He pulled out the old handheld and plugged it in. It had been 8 months. He had been offline for 8 months. Surely ENIAC thought he was dead, so there wouldn't be much risk, plus the chances of the cell phone working were remote. He took a deep breath and pressed power on. Nothing happened. He tried again. A battery icon flashed, then a spinning logo appeared. "It works!" Liam waited an eternity for the system to finish booting up and connect to a network. He launched a browser, hesitated, then typed, "Rupert Hudson." Had anyone in the Windsor-Detroit municipal social scene noticed his disappearance? Had it been posted about? He was curious. No, it was more than idle curiosity. He had to know. A single post appeared in the results. "Anyone heard from Hudson?" It was dated 7 months ago. Liam opened the post. "Got you," was all it said. "A honeypot," Liam cursed. One of the oldest tricks in the book, and he had fallen for it. In the distance, there was the buzz of drones. Liam considered running, but where could he go? "Give me that thing!" Saber, who had appeared from nowhere, demanded, grabbing the cell from Liam and smashing it with a hammer. "Are you stupid? Haven't you learned anything? You can't go back. The best we can do now is maybe buy you an hour's head start." She tossed him a backpack. "Head to the old mine by the lake. Keep to the main shaft. It goes under the lake and emerges on the other side. The drones won't be able to track you." Liam hesitated, then ran. If you enjoyed this story, please share it with your friends or leave a rating and review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps new listeners find us and keeps the podcast going. If you'd like to connect with us, please email makeshiftstories@gmail.com or visit our website at makeshiftstories.com. Makeshift Stories is released in the first week of each month. This month's story was written and read by Vern Hume, aka Alan V. Hare. Opening and closing themes were composed and recorded by Matthew Erdman. Audio production and editing by Vicata Studios. Makeshift Stories is released under a Creative Commons non-commercial attribution, no derivative license.